That's what music did for me for the whole time. It got me through the tough times I was suffering when I wasn't playing music. As I said in the movie, it just saved me. Music's always saved me.
Thank you all three for joining us. Elton, the reception last night when everyone saw the movie was so beautiful, and I know that you were emotional. What was it like seeing the movie with an audience last night at Toronto?
Well, I couldn't really see it because of my eye, but I sensed it. I'd seen it before. I don't know, seeing it with an audience is far more emotional than just seeing it with a bunch of people. And I got more out of it last night than I did when I saw it the first time. And it hit harder. And I really, really enjoyed it. The first time I squirmed a bit because I don't like seeing myself on stage very much or on film. But I enjoyed it last night. I enjoyed everything about it. And I forget certain things. So some of the old footage was quite remarkable because that was the lead vocal of Candle in the Wind. And I just found myself looking so wistful. And it wasn't a pleasant time for me, as the film said at the time we were writing it. But I tend to look forward so much that I don't look back. And so when you look back at the footage of some of the playing and the John Lennon stuff and the studio stuff, you think, oh, we weren't bad. And I really, really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting to, because I find myself difficult to watch myself. But no, I found the audience was so warm and loving, and I wasn't expecting that at the end. But yeah, I had a really nice time. I wasn't expecting to.
What made you emotional?
Talking about my family, talking about my children, talking about how my life is now compared to what it was in 1975. I've been through a hell of a lot. I mean, you name it. I've been through the highs, the lows, the highs, the lows, the highs. But it's been an amazing life. It's been an amazing journey. And the great thing about it is I've learned and I've recovered from my mistakes. And I've had wonderful people in the latter few years to help me do that, especially this man here, my husband, and my children. And I'm just, the whole purpose of doing this farewell tour was to say farewell, and to say I'm coming off the road. And when we finished, we didn't finish in Los Angeles. We finished after Glastonbury in Britain the year afterwards, and we finished in Stockholm. And I got in the back of the car and I went, yes, I don't have to do this again. I've done it, and I wanted to go out on the high. And Los Angeles, Dodger Stadium was a high. Glastonbury was amazing. I was proud of the way, I told the band in the film how proud I was the way they played. They played amazingly throughout the whole tour. And we ended on a high, and that's what I wanted to do. I've still got enough on my plate to keep me busy for the next few years, so I'm not stopping. But when you take stock of what we did in the early years so quickly, having made 5 albums in 1 year, and plus touring and everything, you think, how the hell did we do it? And we did it because we were on adrenaline and we were enjoying it so much. We enjoyed that first part. The creative part is always enjoyable. The loneliness came when the creative part stopped. So creativity kept me alive, and I didn't know how to deal with my life if I wasn't creating.
And so even though you're not going to tour, you will still be recording new music?
So,
Even though you're not going to tour, you'll still be recording new music.
I've got records that are going to come out. We've got 2 musicals opening within a month of each other at the end of the year. Devil Wears Prada opens in London in December. Tammy Faye opens in New York at the Palace Theatre in November. And that's happened because of COVID. It just, it wasn't planned like that, but that's the way it's happened. I still do my radio shows. David and I have a beautiful photographic exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. There's plenty of things that we're doing. I like to stay active. What's happened with my eye has been very distressing, because I'm used to getting out in the morning, looking at all the newspapers, looking at the charts, looking at everything, how the world is doing creatively. And I've lost that for the time being. It's been 7 weeks since I've been able to see out of this. But the prospect is good. I had a hell of a time with this right eye. It was a hell of a bug that got into it. And sometimes I feel forlorn, but most of the time I feel grateful that I've still got it, and I just have to be patient. And I've had so much support. So I'm always optimistic, but I was really, last night when I was walking around backstage, when I'm walking around at home, I know where I'm going. Last night, backstage, all the, getting under with the no lights and everything, I found it really quite hard. But I had to be here to support this film. I had to be here. It's the first I've been out for 7 weeks, and it was worth it to support R.J. and David and be here for it because I'm so proud of it.
R.J. and David, can you talk about how the two of you got together and started collaborating to make this beautiful film?
Sure. David invited me to lunch to meet and chat. I was honored just to be invited to the lunch and have the opportunity to speak. And from that very first meeting, we started talking about what kind of movie there was to be made. A movie that would have as its spine this final tour and the final months of the tour, and as its nervous system wrapped around that spine, this remarkable 5-year period in Elton's life that where he, I have to say, he's being a little modest to say he put out 5 albums in a year and because of adrenaline. This was an astounding year and then 5-year period of artistic output, 13 albums that came out over that 5-year period, 7 of which went to #1. The Elton John catalog from the early 1970s to the mid-1970s is as astounding an output as any artist has ever had. And we know that it changed the world, but what I didn't know and what David started to tell me all about during that period was all what Elton was going through. And we clicked, we connected, we found a rhythm of communicating that we never really even talked much about. It just was this very natural, very organic process. And then he formally invited me to be his partner and to co-direct. And as I say, what a thrill and what an honor. And I shared with him that my very first concert was going to see Elton in 1974, and what do you know? It was at Madison Square Garden, and I was there as a 13-year-old when John Lennon came out and performed with Elton. And
that was the magic message from the heavens. When you meet someone, you talk about collaborating. And I warmed to RJ instantly, and I'm a great admirer of all the wonderful films he's created. But when he actually said to me, I was at Dodger Stadium the night John Lennon went on stage, I'm like, oh my
No,
God.
not Dodger Stadium, no.
Sorry, not sorry. When he said I was at Madison Square Garden the night that John Lennon went on stage, I was like, oh my God, that is history. You were there. That to me was like a message. That was a signal that this is the person we should be collaborating with.
How did you balance your roles as a co-director and also Elton's partner?
I did find it really challenging at times. I felt in the midst of, while we were, actually editing and pulling things together, the gathering and filming part, you just shoot and shoot and shoot. But when we were actually starting to cut things together and the emotional power of what I was actually learning about Elton and things that he was revealing and that he was saying, I found myself getting a lot of anxiety. I was carrying this sort of real heaviness. And I do have a really good beacon for when things with Elton land authentically and when they're honest and when they're true. But I don't have that objectivity when I'm so close to the subject matter to sometimes be able to step back and to have RJ's sort of very keen, very experienced eye. I leaned on that a lot. That was a tremendous amount of support. Having said that, I was also able to provide a lot of meaningful insights that while we were building the film in terms of, where emphasis might be and certain points that could be drawn out more and things that we needed to cover off. It really was a great exchange. We were back and forth all the time. Ideas and thoughts and things were all very enthusiastically received, which is great.
Yeah,
It wasn't combative. It wasn't.
How did you find the structure of the movie, where you went back and forth? Did that
came from day
Yeah.
one, because I had always thought that 5-year period, which was in a way skipped over in Rocketman, was such a rich fodder, and there was so much to talk about. And David really was able. It was emotional for him, and he was very close to the material. he also felt it in his heart, and in a way that no one else could. So for him he was able to feel themes emotionally, and that's what a gift. As a filmmaker, to have as your collaborator somebody who is feeding back to you on that level. It was a very rich process of communication.
But I knew, that the Elton coming off the road was a massively significant cultural moment. In the time that we've been together, he's been doing 90 to 100 shows a year, except for COVID. So for him to finally come off the road and stop, that's a big, big moment. And it was Elton's instincts when we were planning the tour who said, Dodger Stadium should be my last North American date. That should be the place. Initially, we wanted the whole tour to end there, and then COVID and changed things around. But the idea then of juxtaposing Dodgers in '75 versus Dodgers in 2022, and the changes and differences in Elton's life, that seemed like a really fulfilling narrative arc that we could explore and play around with.
One thing that I took from watching the film last night was that before I played the Dodger Stadium show in 1975, and 2 days before it, I was having my stomach pumped. And then I went and did the show, and it was fantastic. And I was just thinking, well, you hear so much about people's mental health these days, but in those days, my mental health wasn't very good, but I was saved by the fact that I could go on stage and play music. That saved me. I mean, two days before a show, and you're having your stomach pumped, and then I have to play the biggest show of my life. I did it, and that's what music did for me for the whole time. It got me through the tough times I was suffering when I wasn't playing music. As I said in the movie, it just saved me. Music's always saved me. Even when I was doing a lot of drugs and I was miserable and sitting on my own, I still listened to music. Music that made me cry, music that made me feel, joyful, but made me cry because I was so ashamed of myself. It saved me. I didn't sit there not listening to music. I always listened to music.
Elton, can you talk a little bit about your place in our culture when it comes to LGBTQ rights and the movement that you've seen in the course of your life?
Can you talk about your place in culture in terms of LGBTQ rights and where the movement has gone?
It's hard for me to talk about that because I don't really look at myself in that way. I mean, when I came out to Cliff Jar and Rolling Stone and made that statement, it wasn't a surprise to me because I'd been living an openly gay life. I mean, I was living with my manager, I was going to gay clubs, blah, blah, blah. But it was nice to get the monkey off my back because I was wondering when and where it might come out. So at least I told somebody, and it wasn't reported that I was without me being involved. If I helped move the LGBTQ plus community forward, then I'm very proud of that because it's been a long journey for gay people. And since then, we've made incredible strides. I'm married to him. I have 2 children. And that time in 1975, it would have been unthinkable. So we've made incredible progress. And in some places, we still have to make a lot more progress. And if I was part of that, I'm very proud to be part of that because I'm very proud that I am a gay person. I enjoy being a gay person. But it doesn't rule, being gay doesn't rule my life. For me, it's perfectly natural. I don't feel different to anybody else. I'm part of a lot of my best friends are straight people, and we have a lot of gay friends as well. But to me, I'm no different to anybody else. It's just that sexually I am. So if I move things on, I didn't do it for that. I just did it because I was asked a question and I told the truth. It's plain and simple.
Last night at the Q&A, you talked about the election and kindness. Do you have a message for what to expect in November when it comes to the election?
Well, the thing with music and what I've been gifted all my life to do, music and sport are the 2 common denominators in life that bring people together, no matter what religion they are, no matter what political party they vote for. I don't go on stage and say to people, you mustn't vote for the Republicans, you mustn't vote for Democrats. It's none of my business how they vote. They come to see me, and I'm so grateful they have. What I want, by saying that last night, is that there is a danger, as Dick Cheney said the other day, of America is in a very, very volatile position at the moment. And it's a country I love, and I've always loved, and I'm so thankful that it made me who I am. So I just want people to vote for things that are just, things that are important to people, the right to choose, the right to be who you are, and not let anybody else tell you who to be. And that goes from all the way up to the Supreme Court. And I just hope that people make the right decision to see what is the future going to be. Is it going to be hell and brimstone, or fire and brimstone and hell, or are we going to have a much calmer, a much safer place? Again, people can vote for who they like, but as far as I'm concerned, I love love, and I'm a loving person, and I want that to come back to America. I feel that's been lost in the last 12 years, and I want to see it come back everywhere, not just America.
I know that you're not a supporter of Donald Trump's. He loves your music. How did it feel when he took the lyrics to Rocketman and he used it as a nickname for Kim Jong-Un, and then he gave Kim Jong-Un
I
the
laughed.
CD?
I thought it was brilliant. I just thought, good on you, Donald. I'm the Rocket Man, yeah. Donald's always been a fan of mine, and he's been to my concerts many, many times. So, I mean, I've always been friendly towards him, and I thank him for his support. Yeah, when he did that, I just thought it was hilarious. It made me laugh.
He gave Kim one of your CDs and signed it. That was in one of the books about him, because Kim, I guess, didn't know the song. So
What's that?
He gave Kim Jong-un the signed CD.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
he never heard of it.
I know, because he hasn't heard of me, Kim Jong-un. I'd be very surprised if he had. I've never toured North Korea, and I have no intention of doing so. But I thought it was a light moment, and it was fun. Yeah.
was there anything off limits? And talk a little bit about going through the archives and revisiting periods of Elton's life.
The thing that I was particularly sensitive about was our sons, because we do consciously do our best to keep them out of the public eye. We do occasionally put stuff up on our social media with them doing just the everyday things that other boys and girls do, but we never show their faces. We try to keep, that side of their life private. They haven't decided who they want to be yet and what they want to do with their life. And I think the greatest gift you can give a child is the freedom to do that without the expectations of the world looking at them. I think it's really good to keep that separate. Look, they may decide to pursue something professionally that puts them in the public eye, but that needs to be their choice, not ours. It was walking a tightrope, because if you're going to tell this story properly, why is Elton coming off the road? You can't not show the children. You can't not have them in the film. You have to show what he's coming off the road to. Also very challenging in that our older son, in particular, really doesn't like being filmed. And we had so many times where we were just rocking up and shooting stuff, and he would say, "Why are you shooting me?" Or he'd leave the room, or he'd just shut down. And again, in that way that serendipity always helps you when you're making a documentary, that FaceTime call in the studio when Daddy's working on his record and they're back in England, that is completely 100% them and their relationship with Elton. He had no idea he was being filmed, and he reacted completely naturally. And there's just so much in that one call, because we talk in the documentary about how Elton, what a fearful childhood he had, and how that did, go on to define a lot of his journey. But when we started our own family, Elton said, the one thing that's really important to me is I don't want our children to know fear. He said, every night I came home, it was like walking on eggshells. I was fearful all the time. And what a horrible thing to do, and to see two boys talk to their daddy in a way where there's no fear at all. And the way that Elton talks to them and tells them that he loves them every day. Elton grew up, no one ever told you that you were loved. And it was a different time and a different generation. But that created in Elton what I call a desperate longing to be loved, and a desperate longing to be free, to be who you wanted to do and who you wanted to be and what you wanted to pursue. And so I just love in that call, so many parents reach that point, and it's well documented in some, family psychology studies that parents sometimes go on to repeat what they were victims of themselves in childhood. But the fact that Elton consciously at the very beginning said, okay, this is what it's not going to be. I'm not going to put our sons through what I went through. I find that call really, really beautiful and very moving.
Well, our sons have given me more love than I could have ever expected, and it works both ways. But it's the most, along with David, it's the dream that I dreamt about in 1975 when I was lonely. That was the kind of life I was dreaming about, and I found it, and it's astonishing. And I'm not going to throw it away by publicizing our sons in the wrong way. They have the most beautiful life. We have the most beautiful life. And every day, I'm so thankful that they are in our life. It's changed me so much, changed both of us so much, only for the better.
And then in terms of the archive was a journey of exploration and discovery in the most wonderful way. Elton and David have two warehouses full of Elton's archive, and from pianos to outfits to hundreds, if not thousands of hours of videotapes, tens of thousands of hours of audio tapes, and we scoured it all. We were given full reign, and we were able to discover unprocessed film. Elton recording Goodbye Norma Jean. In the original recording session, that footage hadn't been processed. And we brought it to a lab, we processed it and discovered it, and that was amazing, but so much else. And then there were these two archival gold mines that we discovered or got access to, one of which was Elton's conversations with Alexis Petridis that he made when he was writing his autobiography, and those conversations featured Elton in the most intimate, honest, open way, the kind of thing one could never really get in a sit-down interview with a crew in the room and lights and all of those things. Here he was talking to one of his best friends and telling his truth about this entire period of time, really his whole life. So that was an incredible thing. And then, of course, the Cliff Jar interviews, which nobody's ever heard, in an archive, in Jar's archive at Columbia University. And we found those, and to be able to put the climactic scene of the film together using that interview, to hear Elton say, leave the tape recorder running, and to make that decision in that moment. And again, I say a little modesty here, but that moment changed the world. That moment made what we see now possible in ways that maybe someone else would have come along and been the first in that way, but Elton chose to seize that moment.
Also to seize that moment when he was the biggest star in the world. So to have that amount of commercial and critical success,
To risk his platform.
To risk everything, to say, I just can't be who I'm expected to be anymore. I have to be who I truly am. Huge risk, but that also creates opportunity. You asked about how we respond as LGBT role models. I'm always so grateful for the doors that Elton's music breaks down, the way that it's so interwoven with everybody's life from all backgrounds and all denominations. That's an amazing door opener. And people that love Elton, and when all we ever try to do, we don't deliberately campaign, but we just try to be honest. We try to be honest and try to reveal to the world at the very early days of our relationship. Elton knew people whose partners rode in separate cars or sat in different sections on planes. Elton said, no, I'm not going to do that. You and I are together. We'll just go out and be who we are, and we'll just present who we are to the world with no airs or graces or nothing being hidden away. The only conscious decision we made was when civil partnership was legalized in Britain. And we said, this is seismic. This is a big moment, not just for us, but for the world. So let's do it on the first day it's legal. And, that makes a really strong statement. What surprised us, as much as we hoped to make a statement, what a huge statement that turned out to be. The world's media turned up. We couldn't believe there were thousands of people on the streets of Windsor. And there were TV trucks up and down our street with their satellite dishes up, filming and covering the whole event. That caught us by surprise.
Yeah, we did it the same place as Charles and Camilla got married.
We did.
And we had a bigger crowd. Yeah. What I'd like to say, I know there's been a couple of negative niggling comments about the film not digging deep enough. Well, some of the stuff in this film I've never seen before. They dug so deep. I would never expected to hear the Cliff Jar thing. I've never expected to see some of the footage of me singing Candle in the Wind. They dug so deep. Because I'm not the sort of person who talks about myself very much. I don't do a lot of publicity. I don't do much press. So I was astonished at what they found. So I thought we dug pretty deep.
And your handwritten diaries. Those serendipitously came back into our life about I don't know, 10 years ago. Someone had them in a briefcase in a crawl space in their house and pulled it out and said, oh, I guess maybe we should send these back to Elton. So I got the call, I'm sending you something, I think you'll be happy to receive it. They didn't say what it was. And we opened this briefcase and there were these diaries from, like, charting every single day of Elton's career from, you know, pre-Troubadour, the early days, right up until 76. And the 2 passports where he changed his name from Reg Dwight to Elton John. They were all in this one briefcase. When Alexis started working with him on his memoirs, he said, you must have diaries from that time. Elton had forgotten he'd done them. You know, it was such a huge, full, busy life. He said, I didn't keep any diaries back then. Oh, yes, you did. And they're really, really revealing and really charming and so honest. And you are like a kid in a candy store, and you can feel your sheer joy of discovery, of becoming and creating who you ultimately turned out to be.
That's really beautiful. Elton, who would you like to collaborate with? Is there someone you really like to sing with that you haven't sung it with yet?
There's a loaded question.
Well, Brandy Carlisle collaborated with me on the song for the film, Never Too Late. And so that was someone I really wanted to sing with. I've known her for 20 years and I love her, and she's one of our best friends. There are plenty of young singers around at the moment. I mean, it's been a summer and a year of the great female singers and songwriters: Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, Charli XCX, Gracie Abrams. They've just ruled it, and they've made records that are really good songs, and they brought a lot of joy to the people. And the songs are really good songs. So I'm happy to sing with any of those people.
Would you want to sing with Taylor Swift?
Huh?
With Taylor Swift?
I don't have no problems with singing with Taylor Swift. She's a great songwriter, she's a great artist, and she's a phenomenon. I've never seen a phenomenon like that since the Beatles. And she works her ass off, so good luck to her.
I have a question about The Lion King. So is it true that in Can You Feel the Love Tonight, it was originally supposed to be Timon and Pumbaa, and you said no, it has to be between Simba and Nala?
No, it was different. It was actually, you should tell the story, but they took it out of the film completely. So when Elton screamed Lion King, there was no Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Maybe you should tell the story.
Well, yeah, I did The Lion King, obviously with Disney, and then Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was very involved in the film and was great to work with, as with the whole Disney team, came down to Atlanta and showed me a rough cut of the film, nearly finished film. And there was no Can You Feel the Love Tonight. And Jeffrey, where's Can You Feel the Love Tonight? He said, well, we just couldn't find a place for it. And I said, it's a love song. Every Disney animation film has a great love song. You really ought to reconsider this. And I was quite astonished that it wasn't there. Not hurt, just greatly surprised. And to his credit, they went back and they found a place for it, and it won the Oscar. And so that was working with people like that we have done with Disney on this whole thing. And the live broadcast from Dodger Stadium is a pleasure because they listen and we're a team. And for Jeffrey to go back and say, listen, Elton says we should put this back in the film, and they did. And as I say, it won the Oscar. It's Circle of Life should have won the Oscar, but I'm not going to complain.
Why Circle of Life?
Because it's the song of the Lion King. It starts the Lion King, and you hear the Circle of Life and you think of the Lion King. And yeah, to me that's the song that makes the Lion King. But I'm not going to complain.
So when you saw it, there was no Can You Feel the Love Tonight. It's the peak of the movie. It's the soul of the movie. It wasn't. No.
They took it out completely.
Yeah.
It wasn't there.
There was no Can You Feel the Love Tonight. But then when the film came out, there was. And but it's great, isn't it great to work with people when you collaborate, that they can listen to you. A lot of studios would have said, oh, well, tough luck. And this was such an important movie for them because it was their first ever original animation film. And it's been the biggest success as a commercial success.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have the actual numbers, but it's often quoted as the most successful entertainment product in history, like across everything. Don't know a grand total on that, but that's not too bad for your first animated film.
It opened so many doors for me, that film, and I'm so grateful for that.
Thank you all. Our time is up. I could talk to you guys all day, but thank you all very much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you very much.